Do raid boss tier list? You might be onto something there. Actually, you're right. Oh, it's for all... Okay, this is every boss. I don't remember a lot of these. I also didn't prog every boss. Like, I didn't have to prog Brood Twister, and then I think that's literally it. I think I progged every boss except Brood Twister. I guess Ulgrax as well I didn't prog, but it's fucking Ulgrax. Anyway, Ulgrax is like a fucking C, is what I would say. Because it has that stupid phase where you can't do shit. And even in Reclear, it was hard. Wait, did it have a % health phase, or was it a time-based phase? Could you kill it before it went immune, if you had enough damage by, like, the end of Season 1? We never did, but I don't know if you could have. I don't remember exactly how that works. At the very least, you got a damage buff afterwards, but the intermission was so annoying, it was just stand there. Because there was one specific safe spot you always stood. So, the only reason it's not D is because it wasn't a pain in the ass, it was just boring. And honestly, Bloodbound Horror as well as C. It's the same deal. It wasn't shit. It was just boring. As soon as you could... Wait, no, you had to kill Bloodbound Horror to skip, didn't you? You couldn't skip Bloodbound. You had to kill the first 2 bosses before you could go to Silken Court. Bloodbound Horror, it was a little bit better as Warlock, just because there was a lot of opportunity to abuse Havoc. Blood was just very middle of the road. I'm not going to complain about Bloodbound Horror, but it didn't drop any good loot. As a caster, at least, it didn't drop. Actually, no, I think it had a Haste Mastery ring. It had a Goated ring. I don't think I ever got it. Brood Twister... I didn't prog this, but I would put it D anyway, because I'm glad I didn't prog this. I'm glad I completely skipped this fight, so it has to be D, right? There's no other way that this isn't just D. I don't think anyone has to argue against that. And Sikran I would put B, because it was a relatively interesting fight. It was very brain dead as soon as you get into Refarm, but I kind of like that. It had the neck piece that took me literally months to get. It had my Bis weapon, which I got week 1, so I can't really complain about not getting the neck piece. Need a tier for itself called Brood Twister. Is there anyone else that would be D? Or can I just call D Brood Twister? And, yeah, okay, no, Styx. I don't know if Styx is D, though. It's just not as bad as Brood Twister, but it still fucking sucks. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. Rashanan, I would just do C because it was boring as fuck, and it was a joke of a boss. It was just a meme boss. But it wasn't bad. It was just in the way. Like, it's not Brood Twister level bad. Nexus Princess, because I didn't do it, like, I wasn't one of the 4 guilds that had to do a pre-nerf, it is instant S. Nexus Princess Kaiveza is probably the best boss they've ever done. I don't think there's anything bad about Nexus Princess, outside of, you know, the 3 or 4 guilds that had to 2 tank it. Sorry, 1 tank it. But that's, like, out of the question, because only 3 people in the fucking world would, or 3 guilds in the world would care about that. It's absolutely goated fight. Silken Court, I think A. I don't know if it's inflated because I'm a Warlock and you could just spammed... You did so much damage as a Warlock here. Am I wrong for saying Court is A? Is it too high? Is that just a Warlock opinion? Court was actually good. That's what I thought as well. I think it also depends on who you played with. Damage amp 2 target. Yeah. Good mechanics. I think the only annoying thing was Dispels, but I personally didn't have to worry about that because I'm a Warlock and I can Dispel myself. You're on the middle with Court. I think it's very heavily dependent on a little bit who you played with, but also what class you played. I think it sucked as melee because was there time where you couldn't attack the boss as melee because of positioning? Actually, I think there might have been even just a small amount. We had downtime for moving if you were a specific color. Okay, so it's very, very niche. I didn't have to experience it, but I'll just say that's why it's not S. Queen Ansarek. It was definitely better than Silken Court. Is it S tier though? I think it is. P1 mechanics are so, like, really fucking good. It's not Nexus Princess Kaiveza, but it is still really good. I'm trying to think if there was anything fucking annoying about it, and I don't think there was. Post-nerf actually peak. I'm pretty sure we did it with, like, a decent amount of nerfs as well when we killed it. There wasn't ever a DPS stop. There wasn't ever any bullshit like that, so I think I'm okay with it being an S. Where Blades one-shotting might be it. I never got one-shot by them because I'm a Warlock. But even then, Nexus Princess one-shot you with fucking lines anyway. And that was goated, so... Queen Ansarek is S tier. Was Silk... This is a pretty weird raid. A lot of variety in terms of bosses. Like, 2 of the best bosses ever made. Pretty decent middle of the pack. And then everything else is so dog shit. Okay, Undermine. Vexy is C. It was an alright fight, but I hate the bikes. If the bikes weren't in it, it would be an instant B. but it goes to C because I hate the bikes. Everything else about that fight is perfectly fine. Having a damage amp on the first boss is always a good thing, but it has the same issue with Olgrax. Not as bad. It is definitely ahead of Olgrax. Olgrax is like down here. It's definitely ahead of Olgrax. Definitely ahead of Bloodbound and Rashanan. Rashanan had too much downtime. Same with Olgrax. Too much moving in Rashanan. And with Vexy, it was just slightly annoying because the bikes were just tedious. It actually took way too long to charge. Like, you would press the charge and you would sit there for 4 fucking seconds waiting for it to move. Actually dog shit. Cauldron of Carnage, I think is A. I think it's really good, actually. And it might be a Warlock take because you just have extend in the middle and do a fuck ton of damage. Cauldron of Carnage was also really aesthetically cool. I never had to do the kicking the robots into the middle. Maybe that's why I have such a high opinion of it. Because that would suck. It is not Silken Court level. Silken Court is too good of a fight. But like as a second boss, this is fucking peak, I think. Is there a boss better than Cauldron of Carnage? A second boss? Definitely not Bloodbound Horror, and definitely not Soulbinder was free. Lumathar is not too bad, but not Cauldron. I think the thing that's carrying Cauldron of Carnage is how cool it is aesthetically. I really liked the theme of Undermine. Undermine was cool. They did miss a little bit. You never really did anything in the casino, but the aesthetics really hard carry it, and it wasn't a bad fight by any means in my really cool upsides, but not S, I think, is what I'm going with. Styx is D. I think it's better than Brood Twister. I think Brood Twister is worse than Styx, but Styx is still shit. I don't think we have to talk about it much. Styx is annoying as shit. Even on Reclear, it was annoying as shit. Richard Reverb. This might be... Yeah, this might be dependent on what you played, because I didn't enjoy it too much. I would put it C. Definitely better than Vexy. Maybe even low B. Like, by the time I set up my damage on AoE, it was all dead. So I didn't get to enjoy that. But I think if you were like a melee class, like a warrior or monk, you fucking loved this fight. But I would put it C. Definitely better than all these bosses. It didn't have anything annoying about it. There was a downtime, which I'm not a fan of, but at least it was somewhat engaging. But because of the way that the downtime was done, the timing of CDs was always off-center. Halfway through intermission, your 2 minutes would be back up, so you'd be sitting on them for like 10, 15 seconds. Tier listing is fun. Tier listing is very fun. Sprocketmonger. Let's talk about Sprocketmonger. I think it's definitely A. Definitely better than Cauldron. Is it better than Silken Court? I think the only reason I think Silken Court is better than Sprocketmonger is because Silken Court didn't have anything in it that was really fucking annoying. Sprocketmonger, the rockets could just randomly choose to shoot at you in a very awkward angle, and you couldn't dodge it. And if your hunted wasn't standing back there with Turtle blocking all that shit, then you just died. And the mines were vaguely annoying, especially if you played melee. So it's definitely A. It's better than Cauldron, but I don't think it's Silken Court level. One-Armed Bandit, man, there's a lot to talk about with One-Armed Bandit. It's a really cool boss. I feel like One-Armed Bandit is poisoned by its Reclear. It was fun to prog, but Reclear was a pain in the dick because there was so many fucking damage stops. It was really annoying. I actually might bring Cauldron of Carnage down here because One-Armed Bandit, I think, is above Cauldron, but not A tier, so Cauldron has to go down. And Muggsy, oh my god, Muggsy. If Muggsy wasn't bugged the entire fucking tier, it would be B. But because the mines were bugged, literally to this day, they are still bugged. They never fixed them. And like, sure, you can work around it, but the amount of times we wiped on Reclears because of that fucking bug. Plus, we had an absolutely terrible time on Muggsy. I honestly think Muggsy goes at the bottom of C. I'm looking at all these bosses and it's like, what would you rather do? On a Reclear, what would you rather have to kill? But even then, I think I'd rather do Styx and Brood Twister instead of Muggsy. Muggsy was so annoying. I think I had a terrible time on Muggsy, personally. Our guild did it awfully. I mean, it can change, but I think it goes at the top of D. I really do. Also, Kate's playing a game, so she's screaming. And Chrome King Gallywix, like C. I think top of C even. Like, Gallywix wasn't bad, but it was not an N tier boss. And I think just after Muggsy, it felt nice to prog a boss that was free. As a last boss, it's terrible. But as a boss in general, like, it's not D. I wouldn't be like, fuck, we have to do Chrome King Gallywix. That's annoying as shit. It's like, oh, Gallywix is just a free boss, I guess. Like, would I rather do Gallywix? It's not really that big of a comparison. Yeah, Reclear is wiping on Muggsy, and then Gallywix is you just one-shot it, basically. Are there any damage stops on Gallywix if you push too fast? I don't think there were. You just pushed it. You just killed it as fast as you needed to, which is good in Reclear. So I think it's fine in C, honestly. Because it's not D tier, but it's not great either. Plexus Sentinel. Like middle of C, probably. I think I'd rather do it. I'd rather do Plexus instead of these bosses, but I would rather do Richard Reverb instead of Plexus, I think is how that works. I think I'm fine with it being like top middle of C. It's an okay first boss. Didn't have a damage boost, had an intermission that was vaguely annoying, but it wasn't super annoying. There were movement parts on it, which I'm not a huge fan of, that made you stop damaging. I think it was pretty middle of the road. Nothing to complain about necessarily, but it wasn't a great first boss. And for Lumathar, probably B? Lumathar was fine. It has a damage amp at the end. There's no downtime. As a range, there's no downtime. I think it loses points on melee because you have to run out and not do anything for like 5 seconds. But as a range, it's fine, especially as a Warlock. As a Warlock specifically, this fight is just sit there and damage it, which is great because you could you blinked over shit, you moved away, you damaged no matter where you were. I think it's B. It's like the second boss, I would rather do it instead of Cauldron. I think it goes high B. And Soulbinder is just like, I think Soulbinder just goes top of C because it's not D, but it's such a nothing fucking boss. It's absolutely nothing on Soulbinder. It's just a target dummy is all Soulbinder Nazandri, however you pronounce it. Nazandri. So that's top of C. Is just a target dummy. Forge Weaver, I think is it A? I think Forge Weaver's, I've kind of like playing Forge Weaver because you can really, specifically as a Destro lock, your demon lineups were fucking perfect every time to pad on the ads. If you played it properly, you got a Ruination on almost every ad set, and it felt fucking amazing. It might even go above Silken Court, in my opinion. I think it does. I didn't have to deal with the bullshit of it being, like, again, I wasn't in a high-end guild. Didn't matter where that it had to be nerfed, like, week 2 by 40% or whatever the fuck it was, because I didn't have to worry about that. I only ever saw the version of Forge Weaver that was properly tuned, and I played a Warlock. I mean, it's a fucking Warlock boss is what it is. Same with Soul Hunters. Soul Hunters, I think, it's not A. For how council fights go, it's pretty fucking good. There are so many council fights that are just pure dog shit. Soul Hunters, keep in mind, I played Warlock, which is the class you play for this. Like, no one beats a Warlock in damage on Soul Hunters. But also, I was sitting there dispelling on prog all the way through reclears as well. I was dispelling as a Warlock, and I'm still thinking it's B. The only reason it's not A is because other classes exist. If everyone played like a Warlock, this would be an A tier boss because it's fucking fun. Like, I think Melee hate this boss. Probably Healers hated this as well. Fractalus is D. You could argue it's kind of like Soulbinder, but it's a fucking weak aura boss. You didn't wipe on Soulbinder because your weak aura, one person had a weak aura out of date. For Fractalus, you did. So Fractalus is D. Easily D. It's a free re-clear, but progging on it, like, just having to zone in, and one person forgot to update their weak aura, so it's an instant wipe. Fuck that boss. It's so stupid. I hate it. I agree with the take that it was put in there by Blizzard to make people hate weak auras so that there was less backlash on them removing add-ons. I fully am taking the copium on that take. 100%. Nexus King Salad Bar. It's either A or S. Was it S? Is there anything about it that's bullshit? It's either top of A or it's an S. 100% on them designing Frac that way? Yeah. They have said for years that a boss like Fractalus, they do not make because they know weak auras will trivialize it. And then what do you know? The last boss of the game, of the tier, so the last tier of the X-Pack, where they actually allow add-ons and weak auras, they make a boss exactly like that, and everyone fucking hates it because of that exact reason. It's a bit sus. We know for a fact you know that works like that. You've said it for years. Since, like, Legion and BFA. Ever since probably Archimonde in Warlords Adrenal. I think Nexus King is S. P1 is super rough in a good way. Like, it's challenging as fuck. And it's fun. It incorporates things from Nexus Princess as well. Obviously, because it's her dad. It has an ad phase where you can pad. Doesn't matter in Warcraft logs either. They don't track that shit, which is always a W. The beams weren't as fucking annoying as they were in Heroic. The beams were easier on Mythic than they were Heroic because it was super fucking predictable. So I actually think Nexus King is an S. It's just not up there with Queen Ansarek and Nexus Princess. And then I think Dimensius goes ahead of Nexus King. It's annoying on Reclear because it's such a hard boss, but it's very satisfying when you kill it with prog. because it's really fucking challenging. I think the only way that it would seem unfair is because one person can wipe the whole raid, and it's such a tight damage check. At least, like, you know, in Hall of Fame range of kills. Fuck Dimensius. I understand how annoying it can be in Reclear, but I mean, there's no downside to just pushing when you want to push it either. Like, it's not annoying to Reclear in terms of having to hold damage, even though the last guild I was in did that. Had no fun there as Warlock. I think it's not as fun as Forge Weaver in terms of like lining up CDs to do damage and shit. As a Warlock, it's not the best Warlock fight, I will say that. Warlock is like F tier class on that fight outside of just needing 2 gates. That's the only reason you ran 2 Warlocks is because there were 2 gates. If you did not need gates or healthstones, you would not run Warlock on this fight. You don't need them. Every other class would just be better at what they do. It's just because you need 2 gates. And obviously healthstones exist in Soulstone. The class buff got them in that raid, and they just said bring 2. That's all it was. But at the same time, Dimensius, in terms of boss design, is like, I think... Is it better than Answer? I had more fun on Ansarek. It might just be a Warlock diff. I think if I played Ellie Shaman on Dimensius, I would rank it higher than Queen Ansarek. Because Shaman's fuck on that boss. Or if I enjoyed Arcane Mage, I'm sure I would really, really like Dimensius as Arcane Mage. But I hate Arcane Mage, so I never played it. I did play Ellie, and I can understand, like, min-maxing your damage as Ellie on Dimensius would be fucking insane. I think the only reason I'm not ranking it higher than Queen Ansarek is because I played Warlock. And Warlock struggled on Dimensius. Whereas Warlock on Queen Ansarek was peak. But also Ellie Shaman on Ansarek did a fuck ton of damage too, right? Pretty sure they were really good on Queen Ansarek. I honestly might move One Armed Bandit down. The Reclear was just so arse on One Armed Bandit. I fucking hate the Reclear so much. Does that really bring it down to the bottom of B? I think it does. Like, what was One Armed Bandit? Was it 5th boss? Or 7th? Or 6th? It was 6th boss, right? Yeah, Sprocket was 5th. Yeah, see, that as well. Bandit on Prog was very fun. So I don't know, hey. Not judge bosses on Reclears. I think you can a little bit, but it shouldn't hold as much validity as I'm giving it. So I think I do just keep it in the middle of B. Has to be from a prog perspective in my mind. I think Reclear affects it a tiny bit. Not a lot, like 10-15% of the letter grade counts towards the ranking I give it, I think. If Reclear didn't exist with One Armed Bandit, I think it would be either very top of B or bottom of A. But because Reclear exists, it knocks it down. I might put it at the top of B. It knocks it down to B, just because of Reclear. Because yeah, One Armed Bandit is a better boss than Soul Hunters. I just enjoy Soul Hunters a lot because I'm a Warlock. I feel like all of these bosses in B are just Warlock bosses that I really like, that aren't really that good, but are really fun to play as Warlock. Fractalus, Mugsy, Styx, and Brew Twister definitely all deserve in B. I don't want to change any of that. In C, we've got Soulbinder, which is just a free boss. Chrome King Gallius, free boss. Richard Reverb, which is basically a free boss. There was some pad on there if you played the right class. Plexus Sentinel is just a first boss that is meh. Vexy is another first boss that is meh, but I hated the bikes. Bloodbound Horror was boring as fuck. Like, absolutely nothing boss. Rashanan, exactly the same. Absolutely nothing boss. Ulgrax, bottom of C because it's a first boss with an intermission where you don't do anything. BT, we've got One Armed Bandit because the prog was actually peak. Reclear sucked, otherwise it would be A. Soul Hunters, really fun pad boss. It's, I think, the only council boss I've ever enjoyed. I don't think there's been a council boss that I've had fun with. You could sort of argue, like, Primal Council, but Primal Council just died. You didn't do anything on Primal Council back in Dragonflight. At least with Soul Hunters, you have to do the mechanics, otherwise you wipe. So it's definitely, like, just a good council fight. Lumathar, Cauldron, and Sakran are just solid mid-tier bosses. Cauldron is aesthetically one of the best bosses they've ever done. Outside of, like, probably Dimensius, Nexus King, Kai'Veza. I mean, if they're an S tier, they have peak design, right? So Soul Hunter is bad because I always have to do soak. You see, in Copium, they don't give me soak. They just leave it up to the healers, which I'm fucking glad about. That makes Soul Hunters way better for me. Sakran is just free. It's just a target dummy boss, but it had good loot. That was in B. Plus, the mechanics were relatively good. They were just sort of undertuned, so Reclear, you could ignore them. But the mechanics were actually really interesting on Sakran. I think it was just really undertuned for that stuff in particular, which I don't think was a bad thing. It was what, third boss? It shouldn't have been super hard or difficult. Forge Weaver in A, just because Warlock things. I think if I didn't play a Warlock, even Shamans really loved Forge Weaver. This is all perspective from a Warlock, or specifically ranged and also Warlock is this tier list POV. Silken Court is just a banger fucking fight. Same with Sprocketmonger. Sprocketmonger Poggenstock, absolutely banger fight. I would put it in S if Rockets were way more predictable. and if mines didn't fuck over melee. Mines were vaguely annoying. I feel like they could have done that mechanic a little bit better. If there's ever a point on a fight where you go, fuck, I have this mechanic, it's not really that good. I don't like it. Instead of being like, okay, how do I do this mechanic? It's holy fuck, this mechanic sucks dick. I would hate being given mines, even though I played Warlock where you rarely got given it because it was so slow. Nexus King at S tier, absolutely. Demencius S tier, absolutely. Queen Ansarek, Nexus King, Nexus Princess Kai'Vezza. I mean, Kai'Vezza is without a doubt the best boss this expansion, and I think ever? At least since I've played. It would have to be playing Mythic. Maybe it might be on par with Sludge Fist, I think. The only other boss I can think of that's like at the same level as Nexus Kai'Vezza is Sludge Fist and Halandris. Were there anyone in Dragonflight? I don't think so. Fireack, definitely, yes. Fireack is actually really good. I think Fireack might even be higher than Nexus Princess Kai'Vezza, in my opinion. Fireack might be the best boss they've ever done. Alright, I'm happy with this tier list. This tier list is actually peak. Liberation of Undermine really did not hit that well. It was a pretty mid-tier raid.